Oh, that's him. Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Yep, perfect. So I don't need to go over there and do a recess or anything.
Joe, Joe, that's for, sorry, that's for you. I was trying to sneak it in there.
But you're opening and recessing PG first, right?
You did, okay. I just wanted to.
This is do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people already, the public already knows that this is reconvened BOCC, but they don't know.
To do it,
This is
quick.
what we're
All right, well, I'll
Yeah.
call that to order.
and then just recess it till.
Hey, Joe, I guess I do need you in a microphone so we can call the meeting to order and recess it.
I mean, you can recess it till 5 after if you want.
We're doing that before BOCC? Okay. Okay.
Matt.
Okay.
Being 10 o'clock,
Here.
policy and governance, call that meeting to order. And at this time, I'll ask for a motion of some sort.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we would recess policy and governance until 10:20 this morning in this room.
Can I amend that to immediately after BOCC?
Okay, immediately after the
Second.
conclusion of the BOCC meeting.
Amended motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are in recess. And Commissioner?
Okay, I will, how do I do this? I move that
Motion
we
to return to regular
motion to
session.
return to regular session. Thank you, Mr. Davidson.
And a second if you need it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And Ms. Boso.
Thank you, everybody. I was able to meet with the retirement board yesterday for a special retirement board meeting on the topic of the RFP for retirement investment administrative services. Through discussion, I was able to present to them my recommendation to reject all bids. I was able to share some of that information to the BOCC Monday as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions. But the big question, the retirement board did approve to accept my recommendation to reject all bids and then to move quickly to reissue that bid.
Do you know when you'll be reissuing that bid?
I would like to reissue that this week.
Okay.
It does take 48 hours to get that published in the local paper, so that's kind of the biggest delay. But my goal is to have that published by Friday. That'll give me plenty of days to get that in the paper. And then we will open bids at the September 20th meeting.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Motion to receive and accept the recommendations of the purchasing agent to reject all bids.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, if there's no other business, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second?
Motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 That is close to being our shortest meeting. Have we ever had a shorter one? I mean, I guess that wasn't a meeting. That was a reconvene. Okay. I'll stop. It still counts. Okay. Here you are, Mr. Blount.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we return to the regularly scheduled session of policy and governance.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And my screen's blank. Should I have something in front of me? Or?
Touch it and swipe up. No,
Oh, something happened. Bear with me. Is it blurry or is that my eyesight? Oh, thank you, thank you.
It's ethereal.
It had her fingerprint versus mine. All right, we have, this meeting was properly posted August 16th. Discussion, possible action regarding minutes of July 13th.
I'm still connecting, so.
Enter-
Do you have any
Entertain
questions?
entertain a motion to
Connecting.
approve the minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
I'll second, if you can do me old school there, I guess.
All right, we have a motion and second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Discussion possible action, compile employee directory. Who, is this yours, Karen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you need the microphone or can you hear me? Good morning. It's been requested that we've been inquiring about having an employee director for the BOCC departments. And what it would entail would be a picture where they work and their name to help a lot of new people coming on board. And we're just kind of looking for permission to move ahead with that because we will have to take pictures of some employees and I want them to be comfortable in being able to do that.
Have we thought about hiring Candid Color to come and have picture day at the county?
No, I have not because that would cost money. But a good thought. Is there any concerns or thoughts from you?
Well, listing of names in each department, is there actually a need for a photo?
Well, it's kind of put a face with a name. You know, when you're new, we're kind of thinking, I was even thinking of a newly elected official. Hopefully, we don't have any, but in case that does happen, we've got an electronic directory, and they go, oh, okay, I knew who that person is, or I knew that person isn't.
And then what if I'm not available the day of photos?
Then we would go back and get it the second time.
So, Karen,
Yes?
every employee that comes to work here, unless I'm mistaken, has an ID badge made that has a photo.
That is correct. We have to put it on them to get them in and out of the buildings.
So why couldn't we just utilize those photos?
They can't get it off of that system. Emergency management, if you have emergency management badge, they're able to pull those pictures and share with us, but the sheriff's office cannot do that with theirs. We inquired with that just to
Okay.
see.
If we wanted to do this, and this is only BOCC departments, correct?
That is correct.
All of those employees come through your office to fill out new hire paperwork.
That is correct. Yes, we do the,
So that photo could be taken at the time that paperwork is filed.
Sure. Yes.
Then there wouldn't be any issue of them missing the photo date, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about current employees when we go, that somebody may be on
Right.
vacation, but we could always follow up with them and make sure that we get them in there.
I don't look like that anymore.
Oh, heavens, no. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, my photo might need to be updated too.
There's quite a few photos that could probably be updated, but that would be whoever's choice they wanted to use.
But I don't really care. Yeah, I'm all in favor of this. There are a number of departments that have new employees that we encounter that don't necessarily know a name and a face, put the two together, so I think it would be beneficial.
Well, that's even true for me. We've gotten new people hired in the past year, and I see their names, and I have no idea who they are when I see them in the hallways and so forth. So it's kind of informational for anybody that works under the BOCC.
Okay. So I would move that we would authorize the HR department to take the steps necessary to create an employee directory inclusive of name, department, title, and photograph.
Second.
Motion second on the employee directory. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you, KK.
All right. My next topic is the August Employee of the Month. I sent all of you the nominees listed as A, B, C, D, and E. And it'll be your selection as to who we name for the two for August.
My consideration would be D and E and have A reissued for next month's possibility, and ask that the directors use the nomination form that's provided.
Give me a second here.
You said D or B? I'm sorry. I missed-
Yeah, D and E is my suggestion for
D
this
and E.
month.
I'm supportive of that. Second, I guess. D and E, yes.
I guess that's my motion, and then I think Joe just,
So we are nominating D and E for the month of August of 2021 for BOCC Employee of the Month, correct?
I guess as soon as I throw a vote here, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion possible action regarding the use of an RFQ for selection of consultant. Joe?
Yeah, I put this item on growing out of the conversation that occurred in the Board of County Commissioners meeting the other day. It appeared that the board was interested in retaining a consultant, and I thought the method that we might go about doing that would be to utilize an RFP, have that sent out nationwide.
RFP
But-
or RFQ?
Well, RFQ, request for qualifications. In order to cast a wide net, there's some very specialized areas here. I'm sure, as you've both seen in reviewing the guidance, that the reporting requirements for the ARP funds are much more stringent than what was associated with the CARES funds. And so I know we have a couple of reports that are due on the 31st. However, I don't believe we need to rush to have our consultant or consultants in place in order to be able to meet those reporting deadlines. Reviewing those reporting requirements, they're not overly stringent or burdensome because we haven't spent any funds to date that I'm aware of. So I believe we can accomplish the 831 reports that are due, there are two of them, in-house, and then get Chantel to put together a request for proposal or qualification, whichever is the appropriate terminology. I get them confused. And I have reviewed a number of those that have been sent out nationwide, both by cities and counties. I know that Ms. Boso is doing that. And so what I think I would like to do, and of course it's up to the board ultimately, is for Chantel to put a draft of that together, perhaps us to schedule a special meeting to review that and get that on the street as soon as possible. So those are, so
The only one thanks for putting this on. Great to discuss. The only place I really differ a little bit with you, there's two. RFQ, I just think it adds a step that we really don't need. I think our qualifications versus proposals, we're going to be able to weed those people out with our own research, and Chantel does a good job at that. And typically, I like to do the request for qualifications things on the ones that we know that there's not very many people doing it. I think the RFP would be a great way to go about it. I do agree with you about the August 31st. If we can't handle a bunch of zeros, we got issues. But I don't want grass growing under our feet on it. So I don't want to take a long time, and by adding a step, going through the RFQ, we probably add, what do you think, Chantel, 4 weeks at least?
we can do this. You can get it out 48-hour notice, and you can have it requested to be back in 10 days, right? We're looking at a couple weeks.
With everything else, you think you could turn it in 2 weeks?
That would certainly be the most minimum timeframe. Most RFQs that we put out are for engineers, architects of that sort, that we use for our federally funded projects. They have a little bit longer time frame, but through that process, I've noticed that usually these packets for qualifications are generally already packaged with companies, and so I think a shorter time frame would be okay, and that would be the pleasure of you guys, how you would like to proceed with that.
Yeah, and I think going that direction, since these are federal funds, to make sure
Follow the
that
federal standard.
we're. Yeah.
Correct.
And, I mean, as you pointed out, Miles, we have a bunch of zeros right now, and the guidance is clear that by filing these reports on the 31st, it's not it's not mandatory that you have an expenditure by that time. They recognize that you could sit on the money until the very last year of, yeah. So I think we have time. I too am like you, don't want to wait too terribly long, but I also want us to do everything we can to hire the very best people, firms, in order that we don't run into any landmines. And I think a public process of that
Yeah.
nature
no,
is good.
That's, no, so when we go through an RFQ process, when we do the RFP, we will only be sending those that we have discussed with the RFQ, correct? We will be throwing a wide net, narrowing, and then going through the RFP process. We will have a select few that we've sent it to.
So the process more likely that you're referring to is an RFI, request for information, where you kind of throw out a large net and you bring it in, and then you have a competitive process after that. The RFQ process is more on interviews. So you receive qualifications, you would have a set of interviews where you would ask questions to determine qualification and have a set criteria, and then you can recommend award at that point.
And that is.
And then after that, negotiate a contract. I'm sorry, Joe, to cut you off.
No, go
To
right ahead.
negotiate a contract, identify your scope of work, and then bring that back to the board for approval.
Yeah, and that's the process, not the request for information, but the request for proposal or qualification.
It
So
wouldn't have to go back
RFQ,
out
we
to-
don't have to necessarily come back for an RFP.
Correct. Now, of course, you can create whatever process you would like, but generally, and I have the engineering and architect process to really refer to, that's the process that we use for those. This may be a little different.
And through the RFP process, we're doing very similar to the RFQ. I mean, we're still doing an interview and everything, right?
Generally, an
RFP?
RFP is associated with a fee,
Right?
And this-
and RFQs are not, whereas it's qualifications-based, and proposals generally have fees associated with them ahead of time within their proposal as part of the criteria, maybe not in total, but as part of the criteria. And for many licensed professionals, the state prohibits them from providing a competitive fee. It's based on qualifications. In that case, it's for architects and engineers. They're not able to compete based on a fee, but they can compete based on their qualifications. And we have to be sensitive to those state requirements.
Generally,
case.
I'm sorry, Chantel. Generally, what I've seen in trying to get ready for this discussion is that what has been sent out by a majority of the entities, whether cities or counties, are RFPs, because there is a fee associated with this. So,
Yeah. And I mean, that's, more transparent to me, but
yeah. And so RFP is fine. Like I said, RFP, RFQ, I get them mixed up all the time. So RFP, to develop an RFP. Okay?
But you're not saying you want it done in 2 weeks, right? I don't want to rush her on something like this. I think rushing is probably a bad idea on this one.
What I would like, I think, Miles, trying to be sensitive to your not letting grass grow under our feet.
Yeah.
What I would like is for Chantel to have the time appropriate to develop a draft of this and then request a special meeting for us to review it and go over it with her,
And we'll develop a timeline at that point.
and then get it,
Okay.
yep,
I
to the
second
board.
that motion.
Okay, so the motion would be to have Chantel develop a draft RFP for professional services related to the county's use, reporting, compliance, et cetera, of the ARP funds. And to bring that back to us at a special meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Just one more quick question. How quickly can you turn that RFP out for something for us to review and then take a vote on? Is 2 weeks good? A week?
Yes, that would be great if I could just have this week to take care of the retirement bid.
Yeah, because I know that's a
Yep.
I would
big
really,
burden on you
I
right
would
now.
really appreciate just to be able to bring something back to you that could be more complete than not.
So what I'm kind of getting at is we may not need a special if we give her a week,
Yeah, okay.
but we may, either way. All right.
If I have something earlier than the next regularly scheduled meeting, I can contact
That's
the
it.
chair's office and let you know that you can determine if a special is ready.
Okay, that's fine. Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, is that part of the motion? I'm just kidding. Motion and second are on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. I either have to get bigger font or I got to get my eyes checked. Discussion of possible action regarding the 831 report for U.S. Department of Treasury regarding ARP funding. Joe?
Okay, so as was also discussed in the BOCC meeting on Wednesday, we have a couple of reporting deadlines coming up for our ARP funds. We actually have two reports due. There's the interim report, and then there's the recovery and performance plan report that is also due on the 31st. As I understand it, the interim report, you're supposed to report expenditures and obligations by the code that was established by the Treasury Department. To my knowledge, that is zero. That reporting is to be done through the portal, and there should have been some individuals that were designated. I think there were 3 positions. We should have received an email from Treasury, and then we should have designated 3 people who are responsible for this type of work. One's the authorized representative, one is someone who is designated to receive the communications, and then I believe the third person is someone that has the ability to submit the reports, and those 3 roles could be filled by the same person. I don't know if we did that or not,
Can
so,
they? By rule, can they?
yes,
Okay,
according to the guidance, they can.
okay.
Well, to get into the portal, like it was mentioned Monday, the clerk's office and then the treasurer's office are those various authorized representatives, and then, of course, the chairman is the administrator. And I guess what led to concerns Monday was the fact that because the clerk's office didn't have answers, yeah, they have the numbers for financial side to plug in, but then the detailed report asking for pie graphs and pie charts and graphs, is that something we can mark to be determined, or how are we to proceed with those?
Well, are you talking about the 2 reports? The interim report, again, this is not an area of expertise for me, but it appears that doesn't require pie charts and graphs. I think maybe what you might be referring to is the disaster recovery plan, which is more detailed. But even that report, the verbiage states that you report on the planned uses or projects if known at the time, or actually it says, to the extent known, I think is the actual verbiage, at the time the report's due. To my knowledge, we've had no discussions as a body, with regard to how those funds would be expended. And I think part of the reason we're looking at doing a consultant is to help us to determine and develop those possible projects and be able to make sure that they are properly accounted for if we choose to implement them. So I don't believe there's anything overly burdensome about the two reports that are due on the 31st.
I tend to agree.
The one caveat being, I think you all went through this, or Commissioner Mon had to, is you had to go through that, what is it, federal ID me to get into be able to get into the portal.
Right.
And those other two positions, if they're not all that same person, have to go through that process as well.
We had to do that for the CARES funds, though, and we've had to do it we have to do that for all federal funds. I mean, that's what Brant is usually running around asking whoever the chair is at the time to sign in, and Basin's the same way, so, yeah. Under a perfect scenario, we could send it upstairs and have somebody look at the legalities of it and tell us what we have to report on the 31st, or how, but
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I did read it several times, and it appears to be, at least to me, you have to report expenditures and obligations to which, at least our knowledge in District 1 is that there are none.
Well, yeah, there's,
Oh, and then the second part of that performance plan report is a component dealing with revenue replacement. And to my knowledge, BET nor anybody has begun and determined, I think there were two methods upon which you could determine revenue replacement. And I don't believe that BET or the Budget Board has made any decisions there. So again, that would be zero. And in the process of developing those. But and we can always have another meeting between now and the 31st, but whoever those people are that are able to get into the portal to do the reporting at this time, hopefully they reviewed what's required for the 831s and would concur that it's pretty simple. Now, the time the first dollar's spent, I'm out.
on this one, no desire. Right.
Yeah, when it's zero, I think I can get there. And, by the way, these reports, if you need an extension, you can contact Treasury, or if you want to amend them, you contact Treasury. So they can also be amended. And then the final thing, I guess, is you all are aware that everything has to be placed out onto the county's website. So I don't know whether that's just more for informational purposes. I don't know that we really have.
as in this item.
Yeah, in that, from my uneducated guess, we don't have a lot to worry about with regard to the 31st unless we spend a lot of money between now and then.
I don't see that happening. All right, anything else for item 5?
Just a motion to receive the information.
Second.
Motion is second to receive information. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 6, discussion, review, and possible action. Update from the Director of Court Services. Grant,
Good morning.
welcome.
Thank you. Let me give you a few numbers for July. Releases 92, denials 30, caseload of 586. The only bit of information I wanted to add is last month, you guys saw a presentation from Deidre regarding the ORAS. That was put on the Court Services Advisory Board. She gave a presentation there as well. There was a little bit of public comment. There was a little bit of discussion, but it ended at that. So there appeared to be no push or movement forward to look into it any further from the board. I haven't received any further discussion or comments regarding it, so it kind of ended at that. So that's just my update on that ORAS. That's all I got.
Well, if I recall correctly, the ORAS, the Ohio risk assessment,
Yep.
even Ohio has moved away from it,
I
correct?
honestly don't know. I could check on that, but I don't know that answer.
Yeah. What's that? That the developers of the program have actually moved away from the program. So, they may have come out with something better and different, but it's interesting. Do we track on your data here? It talks about your statistical data. Do you track what the denials are for?
No,
Like
because
what the
there's
charges
no,
are?
no, because there's no reason or why someone is denied. It's, when the paperwork's provided, it's an approval or a denial. But the actual reason why someone would be denied is not
Yeah,
not
so
listed.
not the reason why they were denied, but
Right.
the charge. So you're taking somebody in for DUI, second DUI, and you just track the charge, like second DUI, check that box, or this person has petty larceny and is denied, check that box. I'm just kind of curious what charges are being denied the most. And it may
And a
not
lot
be
of-
something that really matters, because I know that there's a lot of history that they look at as well.
Right.
And that might be more of a reason, FTAs,
Right. And a lot
violent
of
crimes in the
times,
past. I mean, there's a lot of other things, and which is one of the problems I have with ORAS. It just kind of doesn't look at that snapshot anymore. It just wants you to see what's directly in front of you.
right.
And I understand why. I mean, part of that is to remove any bias that could exist, but it's still important information.
Right,
So,
yeah, yeah, a lot of times, there's no way to know. It could be, the reason could be the current charge, the reason could be their criminal history, their reason could be maybe multiple failures to appear. We just don't know the exact reason for the denials not listed.
is there anything that precludes us from having boxes for them to check as to why?
That could
Only
be
the willingness of the judiciary to do that, possibly.
Okay.
But again, that's an uneducated guess.
Who makes that decision for the judiciary, just out of curiosity? Is that like a
I don't know
director
whether
of
it's
the
in state
Supreme Courts,
statute or it's kind of left up to
presiding, or?
individuals. I have no idea.
Okay.
Adds a third page to the form.
right.
But the information that you send over, it does have the current charges, right?
Yes, of course,
So-
yeah, it has, it's.
Now, whether it's specifically tied to that, but we do have the ability to at least see the charge that they were sent over for.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Motion
Thank
to
you.
receive report.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 7, discussion, review, and possible action. Benefits Department. John.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just wanted to update you on two things. First, the health risk assessment. This will be on budget board too, that I'll mention this. Currently, we allow active employees and spouses and those retirees and spouses under 65 to do the health risk assessment. There's a group that is left out. That's our over 65 people that we pay for their Medicare supplement, but they're still on a prescription plan, so we're still liable for those costs. One thing I've been made aware is Medicare doesn't cover a lot of these tests, so they're kind of lacking in some of the testing that's needed. So I'm just proposing administratively to move back that group of folks into our HRA. Total cost is around 14,000 for them if normal percentage participates. So not a huge amount, but they could easily be a $30,000 prescription claim a month versus an active employee. So we're still responsible for some of those costs, and that's just adding them to the health risk assessment. We haven't sent anything out to that group of folks. I was waiting until tomorrow's budget board when we're going to have it on the agenda just to make final approval, but that's what that is.
Like that, John, thanks.
Okay. We got a lot of requests for that, especially for employees that retired and came, and then went into that classification. They didn't get to do the testing anymore. And then the next item is an amendment that's on the budget board for tomorrow is for hearing. Currently, we cover only child hearing loss and hearing aids for children. That was typical in the insurance market years ago. Now that's kind of changed. We never updated our policy. So what this amendment does is allows adults to get hearing aids too. And it's every 3 years, actually. It used to be every 4 years. So this adds hearing coverage for adults. It also adds the cochlear implant. We have that excluded from coverage. We currently have an employee that needs those replaced every 10 or 15 years, depending on if those go out, or they could. And since we don't cover it, the employee hasn't had it done. So I'm going to propose just allowing hearing aid coverage and hearing tests for adults and adding that cochlear implant coverage. It's kind of typical in the market to have those covered. If the board approves this tomorrow, then I'll go forward with Evolution and try to get some discounted rates, more than our regular network.
The implant, the one that goes in the bone, goes out?
Sometimes it does.
Huh. I'm glad you told me that before I got one. Jeez.
Yeah. And that's usually for the people who they can't wear regular hearing aids because they have to have those to hear. So if it goes out, they don't have hearing.
Well, you can tell where I've been the last couple of weeks. All right.
Yes,
Anything else?
that is it.
And for a guy that reads lips, these masks don't help. Any motion?
Oh, yeah, motion to accept the recommendations of the Benefits Department Director and add the HRA, those that have phased out to our plan.
Well, the over 65 retirees, we have about
Gonna name
332.
them by age, man,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
just those that have phased out.
Those are on Medicare primary, let's put it that way.
There we go.
Okay.
And then add a hearing plan amendment to our current insurance.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any citizens today? Board comments? Seeing none, do I have new business? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yes. So moved.
Motion, and I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.